Okay, I'm going to introduce our speaker today. Her name is Jamie Moyer, and she is co-chair of the Hershey-Harrisburg Promise Walk. Um, Something about the Promise Walk, it's special to me. I know some of you know my best friend's son was born prematurely. He spent about 80 days in the NICU, and he was just over 2 pounds. She suffered from something that was called HELP syndrome, which is, I believe, one up worse than preeclampsia, and I'm sure Jamie will go over all that with you. She herself is also a survivor of HELP syndrome, so the walk is very near and dear to my heart. We usually walk in May, but since COVID happened this year, it's going to be in September, so I invited her to speak with us tonight. So I will go ahead and pass it over to Jamie.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamie Moyer. Thank you so much for having me this evening. So preeclampsia, if you don't know, is a disorder that occurs only in pregnancy. It affects about 5 to 8% of all pregnancies. It's typically characterized by high blood pressure and protein in your urine. Some other symptoms, which everyone doesn't always have, but they can be swelling, sudden weight gain, headaches, or changes in vision. The preeclampsia walk began in 2005, and it's the signature awareness and fundraising event for the Preeclampsia Foundation. We aim to improve the outcomes of hypertensive disorders in pregnancy by educating, supporting and engaging our community, improving healthcare practices, and finding a cure. So the Harrisburg Hershey Promise Walk is typically held in May. We pushed it back to September in hopes that COVID would be gone. That's not going to happen. So we did move it to a virtual platform. Typically, we hold it at the Harrisburg Mall, and there's 2 reasons for that. One, it's a good in-between place for our Hershey family and our West Shore families as well. And the other reason is we don't have to worry about the weather. There's a nice path inside the mall that we can walk. So that's always a nice little bonus for us as well. Typically, we have events or we have activities for the kids and the adults. We've had face painting. We've had WHTM come in and talk about weather. We always do silent auctions, 50-50 raffles. There are many ways that people can support the Preeclampsia Foundation. One is by attending a Promise Walk. There are a great amount of them throughout the United States. Making a donation. Every dollar raised by the Promise Walk ensures that 2 women receive life-saving preeclampsia education materials, which is very important. I myself, as a HELP survivor, had all the symptoms and never said anything to my provider because I thought it was normal for being pregnant. I thought, you know, as you go on in your pregnancy, you're supposed to feel this way. So I could have been treated at least 3 days prior to when I actually was. So I am very lucky to be here and have my son here today. Also, they have a give every month option that people opt to do. And we always have sponsorship opportunities available. We show our support to our sponsors by shouting them out on our Facebook, on our Instagram, on our website. We mention them at our walk, and we also post signage at our walk for all the people that attend. Does anyone have any questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question. And that is, I have a daughter who is a midwife and deals with a lot of preeclampsia. Are you doing anything with telemedicine? Because it was really big when we were in West Virginia. And that was to have to have the diagnosis done, and the treatment could actually be done without having to involve a doctor. And they actually were training people who weren't even nurses to do it. And I just wondered how big that was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the Preeclampsia Foundation actually has a program right now going on where they are providing blood pressure cuffs to providers for their patients so that patients can monitor their blood pressure at home, because that is typically the first sign of preeclampsia. So they've given away, I don't want to say what the number is, but a few hundred blood pressure cuffs so far to give to patients so they can take care of that at home.
Jamie, I had a question in terms of, you mentioned how in your case, you could have known a couple days earlier. Is there any statistics on, how many people recognize it at the right time versus is it typically something that's coming along later? And, have you seen trends? This is the 15-year you guys mentioned for your walk. Have those statistics gone down with more education and more information?
I'm trying to think. So it's different for every person. Some women it crops up at like 20 weeks in their pregnancy. Some it actually is postpartum. But we have definitely done a lot more education with our providers as far as educating their patients to know the signs to look out for. So I know, like for myself in particular, I did not go on to have a second pregnancy, but now I know the signs to look for, and I know that all of my providers are much more educated to tell their patients what to look for. We do provide free information for healthcare providers to hand out to all of their patients that are nice little color-coded, here are the signs to look for, call us immediately. And ironically enough, I just read an interesting article called Where Are the Preemies that came out during COVID. So basically it was saying with all of these women kind of slowing down right now and not being so active because the world slowed down, they have noticed a slight drop in preeclampsia, and that's perhaps due to where our world is right now, that we've all been home, been less stressed, been more, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? We haven't been running around so much. So that was kind of interesting.
Do you want to share what the signs actually are in case somebody is hearing here who may be able to do something about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first sign is high blood pressure. If you're not monitoring your blood pressure and don't know, you'll typically notice changes in your vision, headaches, weight gain, and swelling. So like for me, I had swelling in my face and in my ankles that I didn't pick up on right away, but my provider definitely did. And generally you can just feel like flu-like symptoms, which again, I thought, oh, I'm pregnant. I'm supposed to feel, down in the dumps, kind of crappy, kind of tired. But those are also things to look out for, just general not feeling up to par.
Well, when there's preeclampsia, what is the death rate for both the child and the mother? How bad is it in terms of fatalities?
I do not know that. I will have to look that up and get back to the group.
Jamie, how many people have you historically gotten in the past for the walks on average? And then this year, obviously, you said it's going to be virtual. So does that mean everyone just walks individually, like on their own, and they report that back, or how will that work?
So our typical attendance for a walk is 80 to 100 participants. And this year it's going to be a walk where you are. So our walk will be Sunday, September the 27th at 1 p.m. We'll do go lives on our Facebook page that day. And then we'll encourage our walk recipients to use a hashtag. We haven't thought what the hashtag will be yet. But they can take a walk in their neighborhood. If they're on vacation, they can take a walk there, and we'll ask them to, look for something on their walk, tell us their why for the walk. A lot of our participants are preeclampsia and HELLP syndrome survivors. Some of them have lost a spouse or a child or a loved one, and that's their why. So we'll try to encourage them to post to our Facebook page that day while we're going live.
I've never heard of that. Can you say it slowly or spell it?
What was that?
The abnormal condition you're talking about.
Sure, it's preeclampsia. It's PREECLAMPSIA.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Jamie, feel free to cut me off here, but I just want to share a little bit too about, you know, my friend's experience as well. So the main reason to get the knowledge out about preeclampsia is to prevent the HELP syndrome, because from what I've read and from what I've been told from her experience, that has a much higher mortality rate for mother and baby. And I know for her, like, just to throw out how serious it was, she had no symptoms of preeclampsia until about 29 weeks. That's when she went into the doctor. She wasn't feeling well. She was having vision issues. Luckily, the team up at Penn State was fantastic, and they recognized it right away, and they caught it. Even though they caught it early, it was still super severe. And they caught it on a Monday night, and Tuesday early morning, she had an emergency C-section.
Yeah, and typically so there's no way to stop preeclampsia or HELP syndrome once it has started. The only cure, and I put that in quotes because it's not really a cure, is to deliver the baby. So you can understand how scary that would be if you're 20, 21 weeks along. That's not a good time to deliver a baby. It's not safe for baby, it's not safe for mom. But it can also happen after you've had the baby, which is even more serious because patients typically aren't looking for those symptoms. They're sleep deprived. They've just had a baby. They're home. You know, their life has changed. So sometimes they're not picking up on those vision changes. They're not monitoring their blood pressure. They're not even thinking about it. And that is also very serious as well. I had HELP syndrome pre-birth, but I've also heard postpartum how serious it can be as well.
So how do you combat that?
So you get put on a magnesium drip, whether it's pre-birth or postpartum, for 24 hours. And that comes with its own challenges. I know that there are some parts of my labor and delivery that I still cannot remember. It kind of affects your cognitive abilities. It can cause seizures. So that's what they use to combat that.
Kind of along those lines, what are some of the long-term, for someone who has, gone through this and fortunately survived and recovered, are there long-term impacts for this?
Typically, it is a precursor to heart issues further on down the road. So if you've had preeclampsia or HELP syndrome, you need to work with your family medicine provider about getting cardiology consults, because there is a high likelihood that you will have cardiac issues in your future. Sorry, I have a wiener dog.
Also, not to mention the fact that it's on postpartum as well. I know I've struggled with severe depression. I can't imagine.
I think we might have lost Alyssa. I think her connection wasn't too strong there.
I was going to ask if they still use mag sulfate to treat it. I'm a retired paramedic, and you answered that question.
Mm-hmm.
I think I delivered more babies than I actually treated preeclampsias, so that's a good thing. And I did have to deal with that out in the field, and it's not a walk in the park.
No.
It's a hurry up and move situation.
Yes, I remember being in the hospital at 6 a.m. They did a lab draw. They came in at 7 a.m. and said, "We are having a baby today. This is what's going on," and off I went.
Yeah, a lot of times if they came in with a mag sulfate drip, they went right up to the delivery. They just avoided the ER. This one, right upstairs.
If it's caught early enough, can't they rest the mother sufficiently so that she can deliver?
They try. It just all depends on how it progresses. So they can start with bed rest and see how it goes. And really it just comes down to monitoring the symptoms and seeing how far they can take mom through that pregnancy.
The biggest thing they stressed to us when we had to treat it, you're treating 2 patients. And you had to keep that in the back of your mind all the time. You just weren't treating mom.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, Jamie, thank you so much. One last question, I guess, is where can people get more information and how do they find out about the virtual walk and what's the best way to get educated through the organization or through the walk?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's always the Preeclampsia Foundation website at Preeclampsia Foundation. Let me double check it. Preeclampsia Foundation, preeclampsia.org. We also have a walk page for the Harrisburg Hershey Promise Walk. And I can email that out to the group. It's like a secure QGive. It's like a funny website. I can email that out to be dispersed, as well as our Facebook page. We have, it's at Harrisburg Hershey Promise Walk. And then we have an Instagram as well, and that's at Harrisburg Hershey PW.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing information about this and certainly sharing your story and how we can get involved. Definitely, if you could share that link, Alyssa, I'm sure you have it. If you can get it out to us, we'll be sure to share it with our members as well.
Awesome.
Great. Well,
Thank you.
everyone,